Before we leave, you wanted to talk a little bit about HBO as a whole, or favorite TV?
Yeah. I just wanted to talk. HBO has put out a lot of quality content this year. I feel like Euphoria has been one of my favorite shows of the year.
You know what's funny, man?
What's that?
Oh my God. I'm making a list right now of shows I have to go back and give it another chance.
Yeah.
Euphoria's on the top of that list.
Yeah, because you were shitting on it.
I was. I'm going to give it another shot.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Euphoria another shot. I'm going to give Righteous Gemstones, speaking of HBO shows.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that a shot.
I'm going to watch one episode of that.
I want to give that another shot. Just because I'm very, 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 very. Obviously, this is all foreign to me. Big money and big corporations.
Right.
But when it comes to churches,
religion,
I'm very familiar. I used to work in a church, so I'm very. That's why it's kind of hard for me to watch that. Because I'm very close to it. But I'm going to give that another shot. Those are two HBO shows that I want to give another shot. Give me some other ones.
If you go to Euphoria, get to episode 4. Did you watch episode 4? That to me, that's when I fell in love with the show. And maybe
I got through the pilot and I was like, this ain't for me.
No, episode 4. If
the pilot to me was just like, oh my God, we get it. Yeah. Drugs and sex and boobs and I'm 15, but I want to get naked. Like, bro.
That's real life, but
I know, but it was too fetish. Just because it's real life doesn't mean I want to see it.
Yeah, we get to episode 4 because episode 4 is the one. To me, it felt like one of my favorite movies is Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia. To me, it felt like a 1-hour version of that movie. Just from the camera movements to the music, everything was brilliant in that. But shout outs to Euphoria. I really want to talk about our favorite TV shows on HBO right now, so I can say a salute to Ballers. Ballers, one of my favorite shows on television.
Is Ballers good?
Ballers is great. Ballers, maybe some people might have, some standards when it comes to writing or acting or whatever. But listen, to me, if you're asking me, my personal opinion, it's just as good as Entourage was.
Never saw Entourage.
And I like Entourage a lot. But I think Entourage gets a lot more coverage and a lot more attention because it's about entertainment industry, whereas Ballers is a lot about football, and it doesn't get the same kind of attention that. And again, Entourage, I think most people look back at Entourage now and say, that's not a great show. Like, what are you talking about, Robert? That's not a great show. But I think what it represented at the time was the it just represented the snazzy, the cool guys walking around town doing their thing. But I think with this show, with Ballers, is so different. Of course, it has The Rock at the centerpiece of it, but it's a very pro-athlete, pro-NFL, pro-NFL athletes, pro players type of show. Is very much The Rock. The Rock is playing a character named Spencer Strassmore, who is a financial advisor to a lot of NFL players. And throughout the show, you kind of see him tugging back and forth with his morality. A lot of times the show deals with issues of gentrification, of for example, one season in general is about how they're moving the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas. And then kind of in the fictional show, Spencer's kind of putting that together.
Interesting.
But he has to deal with the moral conflict of that, too.
Sure.
The most recent season is about Spencer trying to own an NFL team and his conflicts in doing that, and him being one of the only black owners, and him actually being, because he's a former player. The Rock is The Rock in real life is a former player.
Sure.
But then in the show, he's a former player who becomes a financial advisor. But he's trying to own an NFL team, and he's kind of fighting the good fight for the players, but all the establishment's trying to go against him, and it's a very powerful. I mean, listen, it's covered in silliness and showing beautiful women and boats and houses and all that stuff. But at the heart of it, it is a show about athletes. It is a show that promotes excellence amongst athletes and the care that athletes deserve to have. So I'm very big on that show. Salute to Ballers for 5 good seasons. The finale made me cry.
Cool,
good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of those things where I'm obsessed with NBA.
Right.
Free agency and agencies and ownership and all that kind of stuff that's happening in the NBA, which is why the NBA China thing, I've been dying to be on a podcast about, because I actually have a lot of I've been reading up a lot on China, and we were talking about it beforehand when we were talking to Wendy.
Right.
But I've been reading up a lot about the corporate idealism of China and the censorship of China and how this crazy thing is happening. And at the same time, I happen to be one of the biggest NBA fans, and I love the NBA and I live for it, off season or on season, no matter what. And I would love to see like a Ballers version of NBA. If they ever bring it back, do like a reboot. Do like a reboot of like NBA, and I would be in.
LeBron could do that.
And you
should do something like that.
You should do it, and it should be called. It should keep the name
Ballers. I like Ballers. Ballers is a great name.
But what I'm saying is like the name could stay the same.
Yeah,
and it's like a reboot
same kind of idea for sure. And
that'd be cool.
And there's a lot of obviously real NFL stars who kind of guest star in it. A lot of real rappers. Quavo was in the finale, and a lot of people just show up throughout the series. So it is very much like Entourage in its style, but unlike Entourage too, Entourage is very misogynistic. Is very like, and this show, granted,
is as well.
is to some extent. I mean,
I was gonna say you can't say it's not.
I mean, I've
seen two scenes, and I'm like, oh,
it is to some extent, but towards the end of the series, it starts to get a little more toned down. You see, there are men with wives in this show. There are men who settle down, and I think what's really important, especially about the last season, that it really deals with careers after the NFL and like what people do after their retirement. One character becomes like a radio broadcaster, and one character goes into esports, and it's just a really beautiful way of embracing the evolution of football and the evolution of athleticism and what it means to be an independent player in this market. And I also think it's also nice to have a substitute for following the NFL instead of watching the real NFL, because I've been watching the NFL for the past 4 years or so.
Sure.
So this has been kind of my surrogate of like having my football appreciation itched a little bit. So
cool.
Great show, man.
Awesome, man. Well, if we're talking HBO shows or shows in general, I gotta do it, and I know it has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Best show I've seen this year by far, Attack on Titan.
Attack
on Titan season 3 reached a different level. Besides that, Barry,
absolutely.
Man.
Yeah.
Speaking of HBO, Barry season 2 was so good.
That was amazing.
I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I was laughing in certain scenes in Barry.
Yeah.
In certain episodes, because obviously everyone's favorite episode is the one with the little girl.
Yeah.
But I love the episode where the boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, Sally's ex-boyfriend, comes back right when they're talking about him.
Right,
and there's like this weird, dark, kind of ironic, hysterical way. Because the show is, what's great about Barry is it blends the humor of darkness, if that makes sense, like, and how drama and humor kind of mesh, and how you could be like talking about this abusive boyfriend, and she's like, oh, he's this horrible man, and he beat me up, and he's like, hi Sally, and he's right there,
right,
like it's awful. But at the same time, it's funny because it's like the irony of like this crazy abusive boyfriend that she happens to be talking about, and all of a sudden you hear "Hi, Sally," and he turns around and he's right there. Like that's funny as hell to me.
Yeah.
And it's that mesh of like how darkness and comedy can meet, and that's why I think Barry's like a perfect show this year. Yep. Literally perfect. Absolutely. Amazing.
And that just goes to show the brilliance of Bill Hader.
Bill
Hader's been having the standout year.
Oh my God, dude. Bill Hader killed me in it too.
Yeah.
He killed me in Barry. He killed me in every interview he was in. Like Bill Hader is just reaching a different level of comedy, and he's just so freaking funny. Last shout out, if we're talking HBO, Chernobyl. Chernobyl to me is one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen. Because it actually happened. And the way they break it down as far as how it's so realistic, it's only 5 episodes long, and it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen on TV. And it won the Emmy for Best Miniseries.
Best Miniseries. It beat your favorite.
Probably my favorite thing I've seen this year, besides Attack on Titan, is When They See Us. But it was close for me between Chernobyl and When They See Us, if I'm being honest, man.
That's nice.
Chernobyl, I know you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
But I'm telling you, man, it's pitch. Like when they say dark and black, it's pitch black.
Pitch black.
I'm talking pure, make you want to throw up and die. And
wow.
Like it's so dark where they're just like darkness on top of darkness on top of darkness.
Right.
And When They See Us is dark, but at least it has that light ending.
Yeah.
Where you feel that
optimistic ending.
Optimistic ending. And Chernobyl is just pure. Like, oh my God, what is life and what is society?
How do we get to this point? Type
exactly.
Shit, huh?